Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining Fresco. Fresco is a game in which you are all painters who have apprentices. You are trying to... it's worker placement, I guess, is probably the best way to drag it down. It's a 2 to 4 player game with a hidden role selection all at the same time. And that's really cool. I kind of like the twist that this game gives to other worker placement games. Because what you've got, there's 5 different things that you can do. And behind a screen, everyone with their 5 worker meeples or apprentices will select up to 3 times of each of those actions. So if I choose the first action 3 times, I'm going to do that action and I'll be able to take 3 things. Or I'll be able to action it 3 times straight away. Bang, bang, bang. Then the next person, then the next person. On top of that, there's a turn order that you at the beginning of each round, you select your wake-up time. Your wake-up time directly affects a couple of things. It directly affects how expensive paint is. It directly affects how happy your workers are. And it directly affects, obviously, the turn order for the rest of that round. How do we get to that turn order? This is the beauty of this game, and this is a mechanism that I really love and I like seeing coming up in other games. It's a mechanism where the person who is furthest back on the point track, so the person who's dragging behind, is going to select their wake-up time first, and then it works its way up the point track. In so doing, what it does is it gives an advantage, an inherent catch-up mechanism advantage to the person who is at the back of the line. What it also does is creates a tactic of not trying to be the leader from the beginning of the game. In the game, your aim is to buy paints from the stalls, mix those paints, so you start with 3 primary colours, blue, yellow and red. You mix them, any pairs of those become purple, orange and green. I'm thinking back to my year 5 art, primary colours, secondary colours, and by mixing them you're basically swapping cubes, closer to Euro, you're swapping different coloured cubes. You then have hopefully will get the right number of the right colours of cubes to be able to restore parts of this fresco, which is a large grid of tiles in the middle of the board, and they have points on. That's where you're going to get the most of your points, and so that action of restoring the fresco is a hotly contended one. However, that action is the second action. You buy paints, you restore the fresco. There's no point in this round where you're able to mix the paints. That comes later in the round. So what you end up having to do is project what you're going to want to do in a turn or two's time. What paints do I need to buy in order to be able to mix that stuff, to be able to do that in a turn or two's time? Will I be able to buy the right amount of paint or the right colours of paint to be able to mix the right number of times to be able to do that in a turn's time? So thinking through that is all the stuff you need to do when you're behind your screen doing your action selection. At the same time, everyone else is doing that. So having the turn order before you do that is really important, because I can look and go, okay, I'm going to be going 3rd in the turn order. There are only 3 stalls up there, so the other 2 are going to go to those stalls first. Each of those stalls is different sizes. So there's a 2 tile store, a 3 and a 4. I might go, there's very high likelihood that these guys are going to go and take those larger stalls, in which case I will only put 2 of my workers towards getting paint. So I'm only going to be able to bring in 2 tiles. Which of those stalls am I most likely to be able to get paint from? This is the thought process that needs to go on. And what ends up happening, if I had put 3 workers in there, there's a really high likelihood I would only be able to gain 2 tiles anyway, and so by doing that, one of my workers is wasted. You can see how this manipulation is pretty important. Now, within all of that, there's a couple of other elements that when you do the tiles, you're going to turn them over and that gives you coins. So in future rounds, you get a coin for each tile that you've done. There's a little pawn that's the bishop, representative of the bishop. Depending where he's standing, you might get some extra points for doing that fresco tile. And you've got the ability to move that around, and there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's fairly streamlined in terms of the thought process. If you're looking for other games that's similar to, I would suggest it's probably close on the lines of Scoville if you've had a go at that. I know I haven't done a Gamesplanation of that, mostly because I haven't got my hands on a copy. As soon as I get my hands on a copy, I will do a Gamesplan for that because I really think that's a great game. But this is really similar because you've got that mixing of colours and manipulating, so you're turning these couple of coloured things into another colour of something to be able to use to get something else. Within the base box, I own the big box. The big box comes with the base box plus the 2 expansions that were available at the time that this was printed. I have tried playing with every module from all of those boxes, so everything in this box on the table. It took forever to set up, it took forever to play. I suggest only doing it with people who actually know the game and have played most of the modules before. But within the base box there are 3 extra modules. In my Gamesplanations and Gamesplayed, I have included all 3 of those modules, simply because I find it a better game when you use them. The one that I will not play the game without is the one that mixes an extra level of colour. So it goes beyond those secondary colours, and you then mix those to become the special colours of pink and brown. There's different tiles on the Fresco for you to do, which have larger points on them. It's an extra step, it's an extra bit of thinkiness, but I think it makes for a much better game to include that. The other 2 modules are just there because, you know, they're good to use. I don't dislike them. I don't use them a heap, especially one of them. Each of the Fresco tiles, there's a blotch of paint on the back of it. If you get a combination of the 3 blotches of the same colour, you can trade them in for one of these other cards, which gives you another benefit. So look, I might only use that once or twice during a game, because it's really hard to get those combinations. And the other one is there's an area where you go to get some income. And you go there, you get 3 money, full stop. It adds to that, so it gives you a couple of other options for some other special skills, and that gets used pretty much every time. And you know, there's some good skills there. I've played with it and without it. It works both ways quite well, so you know, enjoy it if you like having that extra level of thinkiness. It's not hugely thinky, but it gives you a couple of powers, which are kind of cool. The other element of this game that I really, really like is this thought of your wake-up time is going to make your workers or your apprentices happy or unhappy. And there's this track, so when you get up at the latest possible time, your guys are going to get 1 level happier on that track. And if you can get them up high enough, it releases another worker to you, because your apprentices are so well rested that they're working for an extra guy. So they're working, 5 of them are working like they're 6. But on the same page, if you go for the earlier times, it's going to make your workers unhappy, because no one likes getting up early. This is the Renaissance period. It's before coffee was really a thing. So when you're getting up really early, it makes your workers unhappy, and they move down the track. And if you get onto the bottom couple of spaces, just like with the top couple of spaces, except the opposite, you lose one of your workers. So you're only playing with 4 workers if you get up too early too often. Manipulating that part of the board is key to this game. It's all good to be the first person to go and do stuff, but if you only have 4 guys playing when one of your opponents has 6, it makes a huge difference over their ability to keep doing stuff. So you might only be able to do 4 things, and 3 of them might be getting paint. One of them might be the Fresco, or might be mixing paint later. Whereas the guy with 6, he can probably do 3 for the paint, he can go and get some money, as well as do the Fresco, as well as mix some more paint. There's a whole bunch more you can do when you get up later, even though you have to do it after everyone else. So balancing how often you get up early and get up late so that you don't lose your meeples, or more importantly, so that you gain an extra one, is really important and really fundamental to this game. The other thing, of course, if you end up getting up too early, your paints cost you more, so you're not actually able to buy too many paints if you continually get up too early. There's a lot to think about here. It's not a super heavy game, but there's a lot going on. The reason I don't think this is a super heavy game as opposed to something like the Gallerist or Vinyas, or the Vita Lasada games, is that there's a very clear track of what you need to do in order to get to the end. In terms of the timeline of your actions, it really feels like it's used one of the ideas from Race for the Galaxy. That idea of, with Race for the Galaxy, you've got a produce phase and you've got a ship phase. You've got produce goods so you can ship them, but they come in the other order. So you're producing goods for the next round to do a ship phase. On this game, you're mixing paints for the next round to be able to use them in the Fresco. Getting your head stable on that forward-thinking and forward planning is really, really important. I really like this game. This is one of my earlier games that I bought, and I've just loved it, and it's really been an enjoyable experience every time I've played it, even though every time we get to that last couple of turns, there's all this stuff going on trying to go, how can I grab at the final couple of points to really push it over the line? And there's tears over there because that player can't keep their head straight on what colours they need to mix to get to this other colour to get those tiles. And all this stuff going on, it's fantastic, and I really love it. So please go on and watch my Gamesplanations and Gamesplained. Keep in mind that I am using all three of those modules, so if you take those modules out, it's still in essence the same game, just not quite as meaty. And I think that I might have accidentally left a tile on the board, but that's just from one of the expansion packs, that's one of the expansion modules that's in the box as well. And you can look into those if you really wish to. And look, some of them are good, some of them not so good, some of them just make it more clunky, some don't. Look, that's fine. Anyway, let's move on. I've spoken enough about Fresco. Let's leave it there. So I hope this helps you get Fresco to the table. If you have any comments or suggestions, write them below. If you have any games that you wish to be Gamesplained, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter to keep up to date with the games that I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm Gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.